Hello everyone, Russell Wright and Sue Bell is with me this afternoon on today's OneFeed to Rule Them All members only webinar, which is just one of the first items, information packs, process maps, and other benefits you'll be getting in the private members area associated with the OneFeed, the much awaited OneFeed to Rule Them All process map. And again, guys, gals, this is the process map that we use in-house with our own outsourced team that delivers our own done-for-you RSS products for our own clients. And thanks, Sue, for making it, and really glad you're here.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Russell.
Yeah, and it looks like we do have several people on the call, probably some stragglers coming in, and that's great. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to be here. And we're just going to pretty much jump right in. Today we're going to cover the process maps and some basic material. And of course next week as well at the same time we're going to cover even more. And again, I do want to emphasize that this stuff is things that you can take in-house for your own clients, and you also have special pricing for our own done-for-you products should you choose to take this map and implement it and charge whatever you want to your clients. And again, Sue and I are both firm believers after years of experience that it's a really good idea, regardless of the size of your SEO agency or firm, or even if you're working at home doing SEO and fulfillment for social media or SEO, that you understand the processes that you're selling and why they work and how to do it should you need to replace your outsourced team or should you need to retrain your staff. You would agree with that pretty much, Sue, right?
Definitely.
Okay. And with no further ado, I'm just going to step out of the way. I think we're at 5 minutes after, so let's just go ahead and begin. Thanks, Sue.
Yeah, thank you, Russell. So the one thing that I want to mention is I had a hard disk crash over the weekend, and I didn't get RSS Submit reinstalled, Russ. So if you'd have that up when we're ready to go through that, I will pass you the screen, and you can do that bit. And and so just to give you guys an idea of the scope, I mean, we introduced this image last week, right? So these are all of the things you take, like your feed from your blog, and this is all of the stuff that we're going to do. And some of it's not very granular. In other words, we say push original blog feed to social media accounts, and there's actually a huge number of things that fall underneath that. But over the course of the 2 weeks, this webinar and next week's webinar, we will cover all this stuff. So today, we're going to granularly go through all of these items, walk through exactly what to do for all of this, and then just to give you a feel for what's in store for next week, we're going to walk through all of this, which is the rest of this, and then actually hooking your feeds up to the primary social media accounts. So today we're going to cover a little bit of basic stuff about OneFeeds, and that's going to take up some of the time. So I decided to give you guys a break, and we're not going to cover too much stuff in terms of actually getting our hands dirty. But next week is going to be full-on, very hardcore, technical, bring your aspirin and your coffee kind of a week, okay? So, so without any further ado, let's get into some basics about OneFeeds, about RSS feeds in general and XML, and help you guys kind of understand the technical aspects behind what's going on with these. So if you guys have questions as I'm going through this, RSS and XML, they're quasi-programming languages. They're data structuring languages. And so to me, they're really easy, but it's because I'm a programmer. I mean, the XML is just very simple next to the stuff that I've had to do. So feel free to ask questions, and we can get into the details about exactly what is behind the markup language. Whatever details you guys want to get into, feel free to ask.
Absolutely. So, I'm on the helped question window here, folks, so I'm watching everything that you're asking, and no question too small, and actually no question too large.
Exactly.
So, okay.
All right, so with that, let's get into OneFeeds and what they're all about. So the goal of OneFeed, what we're going to set up this week and next week, is to provide an automated means of getting you inbound links, getting you promotions, getting you traffic, passing PageRank via those inbound links to your site. And the the means by which we're going to do this is to create multiple broadcast channels out of the one feed, to distribute that original feed, to syndicate all the different channels, to ping all the channels, and to push those feeds through the social media channels. So what the heck is RSS? Rich Site Summary is its official name. It's often called really simple syndication. And it's, as I said a few minutes ago, it's a format that's used to syndicate web content, primarily from news sites and blogs. You can make a feed out of anything. Okay, you can throw a bunch of URLs together and make a feed out of anything, and that's one of the things that we do in Domain Web Studio when you're back in the promotion and syndication area. Every time you create a new link out there, a new syndication or a new, what's the word that I really want, a new piece of content on a third-party platform, you input that link into Domain Web Studio, and Domain Web Studio adds that link to that internal feed. And so then you can grab that feed out of Domain Web Studio just the same way that you can grab your feed out of your blog, which I'm going to show you how to do here in a minute. So you can think of feeds as being kind of similar to news feeds or stock tickers, those things that scroll along the bottom of your television while you're watching the news channel. In essence, what happens is that new posts or new information is gathered together. It's aggregated or put together, and aggregation is just a fancy way for saying putting it together into a feed, and then it's displaying it. For example, it can display in a feed reader. So now let's talk about XML for a minute. XML is to RSS the way that HTML is to a web page. So you know how web page is made up out of HTML, like it can have other things in it, JavaScript and all that kind of good stuff. But predominantly a web page is made up out of HTML code. Well, RSS is the same thing. It's made up out of XML. And XML stands for Extensible Markup Language. It's a standard way of creating a structure for data. There's actually the www consortium has a standard for how you put XML together. And that makes it easy to transfer between computers, easy for pretty much anything to read, because it's a standard way of expressing the data. You can write, it doesn't matter what programming language you're working with, you can write code that will easily extract the data out of that XML and then use it however it needs to be used. So it's really a very cool thing. So, so there's a whole bunch of different kinds of XML markup languages, but two of those standards are the RSS file format and the RSS enclosure. Now the RSS enclosure, let me see if I go into that here. Yeah, so support and implementation varies greatly for the RSS enclosures. And that's been an absolute countless number of headaches for Russell over the course of the last couple of years. He's been trying to put together a way where you can have images and your video and everything as part of your RSS, right? Actually enclosed in your RSS feed. And as we'll get into a little bit, even different browsers are going to display that RSS radically differently. Mozilla is notorious for having a very poor display of enclosures. So, are there any questions at this point? I've covered some really technical stuff so far.
Nope, we're good.
Okay.
Keep going.
All right. So, we come down to why do you want to promote your RSS? Like, why this whole one feed thing? And here's the thing. Like, there are a lot of people who don't know too much about RSS, but there's a whole other group of people out there who know a lot about RSS, and they tend to be the folks who are trying to automate stuff. So this falls into, obviously, into two different camps. There's the white hat guys and there's the black hat guys. Now, the white hat guys who are looking to automate stuff are actually looking to help promote and syndicate people's content, right? So they're aggregating your content and dispersing it, and other people have got blogs where they're trying to bring in other points of view, other pieces of information. So let's just say, for example, that I've got a health and wellness website, and I've got a particular set of diseases that I'm talking about in my health and wellness blog. And there's a forum next door owned by somebody else that I know who's constantly looking for new content that they can feed their members. So they can grab my RSS feed and put it in a widget and stick it on their site. And then everybody who comes to their site can see my blog posts in their widget. And that helps them because it provides their members new points of departure for conversations and helps keep people coming back to their site, as well as keeping the pages fresh so that as the search engines come by, they go, oh, hey, wow, there's new content on this site. Now, not all widgets are created equal. Some of them obfuscate the contents of the widget from the search engines and others don't. And none of that stuff am I really going to get into today. Just know that there's a plethora of widgets out there that will help you with those kinds of things, grabbing people's RSS feeds and sticking them on your site. Now, there's also blog plugins that will do that for you, and there are even more black hat blog plugins that will grab a number of feeds and create an entire website for you. In other words, they'll take your content, they'll take your videos, they'll take your images, and they'll take anything they can get their hands on and create an entire site, which oftentimes drives an incredible amount of traffic if it's done well. And you might, the initial reaction might be, hey, wait a minute, I don't want somebody else stealing my content, but actually you do, because the cool thing about an RSS feed is that it links back to your site. So even so somebody else has got your content on their site, if somebody's interested in that content, that's going to drive traffic back to your site. And if it's written, well, it'll drive links too. It'll drive link juice as well. So it's a win-win situation. They get content and you get traffic. Oh, I probably talked my way through several slides. Let's go on here.
Yeah. It's okay.
This means your content's widely distributed and backlinks are created. All right, good. So the next thing I want to talk, do we have any questions on any of that stuff?
Nope, keep going.
Okay, so the next thing is, what is pinging? So the verb ping means to make a sound, like ding, like a little bell or something like that. And the idea behind pinging is that when you ping your blog or you ping your feed, it means that you're tapping the shoulder of the facilities to whom you've submitted your blog or your feeds and saying, hey, over here, I've got some updates. You're going to want to update your site and tell your readers that I've got new content. So by doing that, by pinging them, it's going to refresh their database, and that's going to refresh everything all the way down the line, so the guys who've got your feeds on their sites are going to get the content updated in their widgets. All right, so that's enough of the boring slideshow, and we can get down to business. All right, so this spreadsheet, the link for the spreadsheet is available now on, I think I have this here. Yeah, here in the members area, I've got the step-by-step spreadsheet right here, and then links to a lot of the tools, if not all of the tools that we're going to use today. And so, first things first, we need an original feed. All right, so let's talk about how to find your feed off of a blog. I've got Russell's blog here, networkempirenews.com. Not that, yeah, it's like his pet project. He does evil things with his blog and doesn't tell me about them. And when you're at any blog these days, thanks to WordPress, it's pretty easy to find the feed. All you got to do is go /feed, and that's going to get you the feed for your entire blog. So you can see here, these are the last few blog posts. These are actually, I've just loaded up the new version of Mozilla, and it's actually giving me enclosure links, which is brand new because it wasn't doing this a week ago. So you can see, I don't know how well you can see my screen, but my cursor's over top of the first media link, and the link down at the bottom says youtube-nocookie.com/ and then it's a YouTube link. And then the second one is a link to a JPEG that's actually here on Network Empire News, and the last one is a link to a PNG file, another image file that's here on Network Empire News. So it's very cool, and then it's also got the link actually to the blog post itself. Now, this is not XML that we're looking at, right? This is my browser taking the XML feed and turning it into something that's much more user-friendly than just straight XML all by itself. Yeah, I think if we say view page source, this is something that I did not try before the webinar, so don't kill me. Yeah, if we view the page source, then here you can actually see the XML. You can see that it starts off saying XML, and it's got the version information, and then it's got the channel information, and that's the information about this site. And then if we come down a little bit further, it's got the item information, and so then this is the first blog post, and this is the text, and here's media content, those are the media inclusions, and then it's got /item, which is the end of the item, and then the beginning of the next item. So that's kind of a quick and dirty to XML and what it looks like, and it's not that much different from HTML. You've got your beginning of an item, or the beginning of a I'm trying to think, there's a word for that. There's a technical word for that. We'll call it a thingy. The beginning of a thingy. And then you've got the, let me find one that's, well, like item.
The technical word is thingy.
Thingy, yeah. Thingy is, yeah.
Right.
So
write that down, folks.
Item is the beginning, and then /item is the end. And you'll see that that runs all the way through here, and that's exactly the same as HTML. So it's not incomprehensible.
Okay.
All right. So,
the one thing I would like to bring up, Sue, if it's okay.
Sure.
Is that we have had some confusion with some people. If every browser is slightly different, like you're not going to necessarily see on Mozilla what you'll see on Chrome. In fact, a lot of people, Chrome's new extension by default, when you type in /feed, has a pop-up window that covers it, that brings a which reader would you like to use.
Right.
Things are getting stranger and stranger in the browser environment for feeds because, ironically, as social becomes more of the connective tissue between SEO and online communication, RSS has started to kind of pick up a new form. So you can see in this one the video actually displays, and a lot of that depends on what kind of plugin you have and what media plugin you're using and the rest. So you can see on, for example, Explore, you actually see the video images.
Right.
So I don't want you to be confused about that. You need to start looking at which browsers are which, and you'll find that this becomes more and more of a pattern when you start looking at different social media feeds and stuff that Sue's talking about. You need to look at what you can see and what the user interface is, because it does really make a difference when things are getting threaded out there.
Right. So your browser basically has recognized the fact that this is a feed, and it's put itself into feed reader mode for you. And this is where I was saying in the slideshow, each reader does different things. And
yeah, and it's strange because it does affect things. You know, like Eve and I were just talking about the whole pin vid stuff, and she's, you know, asked me some questions in the past about it. An example of that is, you know, deciding what plugin you use to actually generate the feed out the blog, and Sue will get into more of that next week.
Right.
But there's several options you have to decide. You know, you can see on the left on Network Empire News, I've actually installed an enclosure. I actually believe, Sue, that was the plugin that we were testing on the media enclosure, and that's a little different than, for example.
Ah, okay. So that's why it's showing up now in most of the other day.
And there's other ways to do that. For example, Sue and I were talking about this yesterday. You can actually change your blog settings, which she'll show you later on.
Yeah, we'll show you just a little bit. Yeah.
But we have some questions here.
Okay.
Don wants to make sure that the word thingy actually what you were meaning to say was data element. He's wanting some more rigor there.
Yeah.
You're talking about the element or the media element, the media file element, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Don, that's just a media file, and that one, in this particular case, I believe, was generated by a plugin that we were testing, and we give you all of this in the course.
No, what I was actually talking about was when I was viewing the page source, and so I'm talking like, you know, you've got channel at the beginning, and you've got the closing of the channel at the very end. And so, yeah, those are data element definitions, right? So you're defining the channel,
gotcha.
you're defining the items. So like the beginning of the item and the end of the item. And
gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
You follow that? You follow that, Don? Okay. Looks like we're okay. Kevin's asking an interesting question. Do you want the feed for the whole site, or can you use individual? Don't get us started on that.
No, that's the next thing that I was going to talk about.
Okay. So Kevin, just sit tight for a second. And obviously, we're very big on having the ability to pull individual feeds from your silo. And again, folks, this is the advantage of having thinkers and processes that involve silo from the top level down, because the icing on the cake is the feed that comes out from a perfectly siloed site.
Exactly. All right.
And this is the major drum roll.
I'm here.
We have one more question. Let me hit this other question. Sorry, Sue. Brian, yes, we will have the replay, and you will provide the slides for you. Go ahead, Sue.
Yeah, okay. So this is the category, Network Empire News Updates. And, of course, all I have to do is stick a feed on the end of that, and it's going to give me the RSS for just that category. All right? So when you've got a huge blog that spans multiple themes, then you're going to want to go into the category level and grab each feed individually so that you can braid them differently. And I'll just say differently because we're going to get into all of the different ways that you can braid them later, today and especially next week. So the cool thing about being able to do that, now if you've got a niche, like I'm trying to think of a real world niche that somebody's given me recently, but I've had a couple of them where they've got 5 silos, but all the 5 silos are very close to exactly the same thing because it's just such a small niche. Oh, I've got a perfect one. Bug Out Bags, which is a site that I'm currently doing for the WR1 class that's going to be coming up shortly. So there's food and there's water and there's shelter and there's all those different kinds of concepts, but they're all emergency related, right? They're all emergency food, emergency water, emergency shelter. So they're really pretty tightly braided. Now, I could pull each one of those off individually if I wanted to get really granular with it, and I might. But because they're all emergency related, it's just as easy for me to take all of those together and braid them the way that we're going to braid them with other things next week, so that I get a little bit more oomph there. Because all of those concepts, they've got pretty small competing pages. I was trying to keep it a pretty small site, so everything's under. Oh, you guys are going to shoot me, okay? All of them are under 5 million pages, and I know that sounds just incredibly huge to most of you, but trust me, it's a niche. So, so as opposed to, I have a client at the moment who's got, he does fireplaces and barbecues, right? And he's just got, I might just show that site. Is it cool for me to show that site?
What are you trying to show them?
Joe's site. And I can't think of the name of it. That's just terrible. Northline Express.
Oh, sure. No, as long as everybody buys a fireplace, we're cool. No, Joe wouldn't mind. For him, it's just exposure.
Exactly. So, so you're looking here, you've got chimney products, you've got barbecue grills, you've got mosquitoes, you've got wood stoves, you've got fireplaces and hearths, right? I split those. I clue you. Some of these I even split down into the subcategory level because they're covering so many radically different content, so many different widely different kinds of products, that to mix patio and lawn with chimney products, just to braid those 2 URLs, those 2 feeds together was just crazy. So all of those went into different categories. Does that answer your question? I think it was Kevin.
Yeah, and this is guys, this site is, even though it's okay to expose it, it is confidential. Like, don't be, doing a bunch of blog posts and stuff on it, although even though I don't think Joe would
I don't think Joe will care.
This is one of the larger types of sites that we silo, and we're setting up feed systems now. And Sue has been, again, this is one of our larger corporate sites that she has a lot of time and energy in enhancing. So this gives you, some exposure about
just
some of the higher
starting with it, so don't take an evil eye to it, okay?
No, don't. Yeah, we're doing a lot of different things. We've been on it for a couple months, so but this is an example. Okay, let me just double check. Sue, yeah, I think we're good. Let's just proceed.
All right.
Folks, feel free to type in the questions.
Okay, so back at the ranch. All right, so we've gone and we've found our feed. Now, we want to take our feed. I'm going to go back to just the feed for the whole site. And we're going to grab this feed, and we're going to drop it into FeedBurner, because it's the first thing we're right here. We got our original feed on line 5, and we're publishing it to FeedBurner on line 6. So go over to FeedBurner. This is not the account that I use for feeds that I care about, as you can tell. I'm going to drop the feed in, and I'm going to hit the next button. All right, so now back here, I talk about exactly what I do. Over here on column E, where it says video, I don't actually have a video. This is the video. But I'm going to actually do 2 things to this feed. I'm going to optimize it, and I'm going to publicize it. So you have the option here to make this a little bit more keyword rich if you want to. I don't care at this point, and I'm just going to hit next. And I don't need to do anything else in terms of this setup. I'm going to skip directly to feed management, and I'm going to go into optimize. What was it that I do here? I turn smart feed on in optimization. So I'm going to come here to smart feed. So what smart feed does is it makes my feed more widely accessible. Depending on who's trying to access it, if they're looking for either an RSS or for an Atom feed, those are 2 different standards. FeedBurner will automatically feed them the format that they want to see it in. And then the other thing that I want to do is publicize and ping shot. All right, so over here under publicize, we come down here under ping shot, and pinging, we talked about pinging earlier. By turning this on, instead of waiting for the services to go do their regular rounds and check to see if I've updated content, when we've updated the content, FeedBurner will notice that and will ping them and tell them, hey, it's been updated. So with those 2 things, my FeedBurner feed is ready to go out into the world. And FeedBurner will actually push it. It used to have an option here where you could tell it under publicize that you wanted to push it to certain places, and you could include other places to push it to. And they actually do all that pushing automatically now, so you don't have to have your favorite list of places that you want to push your feed to. So with that, your FeedBurner feed is done, and we can check that off the list. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the feed to Samson and create a new feed. This is going to create a new feed. Now, there's 2 ways that you can do this. My preferred way is to actually set Samson up in your blog. So let's just come back here, come into the back end, and I will show you the Samson plugin. All right. So down here, once you've installed Samson, you've got a bunch of different things that you can do here. Let's look first at the plugin settings. You can do this 24-hour unique visitor ping, and that's kind of an interesting little trick that they do. It grabs I believe, it's been a while since I've read it, but I believe what it does is it grabs the IP of the user that's hit your site and uses that as a pinging reference, which just gets you a little bit more exposure. And it will, if you have this clicked to auto-create post campaigns, then every time you enter a new post in your blog, it'll automatically create an entire campaign for that post. Let me just say what I see over here. All right, so what this is going to do is, what Samson actually does for you is it's got, let me go through the rest of the settings. The only other setting, you can have linklicious API here, and you can have a Pingler API here, and we do the Pingler.
We're currently not recommending Linklicious.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. So, but
Just for the record.
All right, good. And I don't really recommend OnlyWire anymore either. I don't think you get enough bang for your buck. You can do Bitly if you want to have it shortened, if you want to shorten your URLs. But the thing
I want to comment. Sorry, Sue. I just want to comment. If people have OnlyWire set up, I am recommending that. I'm getting enough where if you don't like, we're not saying like cancel your subscription or you're gonna get banned from it.
No, you won't get. Yeah, exactly. You won't get banned from it. I found that bookmarks in general have diminished in value greatly. There's only a few platforms left out there that really provide any traffic, and none of them really provide any link juice anymore. They will for a minute, like for about 30 days, and then they fall off. But it's not nearly what it used to be, which, it was automatable, so it couldn't last too long. But Pingler's pretty good. We use Pingler on a couple of different things, a couple of different aspects. Here you'll see it. So what this is going to do, let me just come down here through the next thing, filler text. Let's look at the filler text for a second. What this does is every single thing that you post in your blog, if you've got it set that way, it's going to come in here and spin your blog post. It's going to spin your title, and it's going to spin your descriptions. And it's going to create a feed. It's going to spin it every so often, and it creates a feed out of each one of these. Well, not out of each one. It creates a feed that's got all of these spun things together, and then it will push that feed out, which can be very cool. So we've actually gotten, it's going to push it out. You're going to see it in your Google Analytics under campaigns. And I've seen quite a bit of traffic come in through that campaign, which is why I know that this actually works. And as I've tracked it back, I've seen the spun content, which was how I verified that what it was meaning by campaign was actually the RSS campaign that this is generating. So I'm actually quite impressed with the plugin. And there's two ways that you can approach this. You can install this on every single blog, or you can install it on one blog, and then you can put your URLs in from other places. So in other words, let's say I've got it installed on my blog, and I'm adding content to my website. I can throw in the individual links to my website, or I can throw in the feed to another blog, and it'll go ahead and spin it and create a feed. When you hit create campaign, it's going to come back and give you a feed, and you can grab. Maybe I should just do that. Hang on. Let me. Wow. Wow. Isn't that interesting?
You have too many. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that worked.
Huh.
Let me try RSS, since it's not liking feed. I have no idea.
Feed. That must be a setting. we may have altered a setting issue.
No, it's probably a typo that I was making, or that sometimes my browser likes to help me out and send me the places that it thinks I want to go. So I can throw that in here. I can say theme Zoom.
While Sue's doing that, I'm just going to answer a question about Samson as a plugin created by Conrad.
Okay.
I've talked to him a little bit. Don is asking a question. No, Don, those things that you saw in there, which are the spin content, those are all stuff that Conrad and his team have inserted. You can add more if you want, but all they are is when the feed's generated, it gives various ways to talk and ramble on about the topics and the themes and what's on the blog. So to answer your question, Don, those are already filled in. so you don't need to do anything. This plugin is plug and play. It's an excellent plugin. It's stable, doesn't slow the blog down too much, but you really do need to know what you're doing and understand each portion, and because there's a way to do it and then there's a way not to do it, and that's kind of what we're showing you now. And I guess I want to make sure that people don't get confused because we're talking about a blog plugin, but this blog plugin does two things. It creates its own feed,
yep,
and it has also the potential of creating a feed of feeds,
right?
Which is like backlinks to your backlinks. So it has to be, and then on top of that, Samson Pro, which I believe, I'm not sure if I've installed. Yeah, this is
Pro.
Yeah, what it does is he has an additional function which we'll show you, which really is not tied to RSS. But what it does is it uses a lot of services like Alexa that use the same PHP script to create a page for your URL. Some of them have various diminishing returns, but it's enough that we've noticed some page rank, and it definitely affects the campaign within the Google Analytics. And really, you have to do a lot of those kinds of sites, and those are like PHP scripts that generate a link back to your site on like government sites and the rest. And so so far it's working very, very well, and we'll keep you informed about, what changes with that. But it's the feed function of this plugin that we're focusing on in this particular webinar.
So once you've created the campaign, you come over here to where the feed is, and you can actually pick your feed up. Okay, so I'm just gonna image location. All right, let me just click on it then. Fine. Okay, so that gives me the feed for this particular.
Right, and if you have a Pingler, the area that Sue showed you where the Pingler thing is, I believe, Sue, if the Pingler API is active, then this is automated.
Right.
But you have to have a paid Pingler
you
account.
can hit you can hit the ping now.
Guys, that means it's 100% hands-free if you're willing to pay for a Pingler account.
Right. And you can get a report for all of the places that it sent your feed to, and if you look at it today and look at it tomorrow, you'll see that it's grown. So every day it spins your stuff and sends it out again. So it gets really vicious after a little while.
Yeah, and you can even provide, if you guys have clients, you can provide it to your clients. Like, Sue, are we providing that sheet for done-for-you clients?
Yes.
Or is that something okay, yeah,
No,
so we'll hand
give
that off.
a whole report on all of this stuff.
Yeah, and they love it. It's like shock and awe,
Yeah.
They're like, oh, there's really stuff happening. It's not just like, yeah, trust us. It's like we show you what's happening.
So, so I'm gonna, actually I should have done that to the burner feed too. Hang on just a second. Let me come back into feed burner and that was this one. Also,
Eve, to answer your question, these types of automated systems for like WR2s, like we're talking about, it's like when I say automated, I'm saying there's no hands-on once everything's set up. So that's really, it's these types of systems that allow that to be.
And this isn't just WR2. I do this with my WR1s. Okay.
Right, I'm addressing a question that she specifically had.
Okay.
About
I just want to make sure.
The PinVid course in December and so on and so forth.
All right. And then, okay, so let me just make sure before I leave this that I've shown you everything that I want to show you. We added the campaign, we managed the campaigns, we picked up the RSS feed, and I showed you the plugin settings. All right, so let me come back here to my original feed.
If you have any questions on this, let's get some more questions coming in about, Samson is a small piece of the overall RSS thing we're showing you, but if you have any questions, now's the time before we move on.
Okay, so what I've done here, just stop. Okay, so what I've done here is I've dropped in my original feed URL and my FeedBurner feed URL and the feed that Samson created. I've got that URL. And now I'm going to grab this Samson feed and I'm going to go back to FeedBurner and plug that in, just to get a little bit extra, because this is spun, right? So I've got my original feed that goes in there once, and then I've got my spun feed that's going in there. And themes and blog. I mean, this is themes and blog. In normal, under normal conditions, it would all be the same blog. Skip. And I'm going to come here to optimize, and Smart feed. Yeah, smart feed. And publicize and ping shot and turn that on.
Brian, I do understand your question. Can I answer this, Sue, or should I wait till you're done with it?
No, go for it.
Okay. There's a couple questions. Can you get penalized for spun feeds? That might. The answer to that is no.
No.
There's nobody auditing feeds because feeds aren't subjected to the same rules of PageRank. RSS pages. It's not like that. If you have feeds that are pornographic or feeds that are really poorly put together, some of the RSS directories might address that by removing you, or constantly.
I actually wouldn't do this with pornographic feeds.
No, the adult industry has a whole different set of
rules.
We don't support the adult industry, but just in case any of you here are, we just have to address it. They have a whole different set of directories. I'm familiar with some of them, but just plain nasty. Just stay out of that neighborhood. Just a warning on that. You just can't. There's a whole different ball game with that.
Yeah, it's just completely different.
Yeah. Bottom line is, Brian, there's nobody out there auditing feeds except the directories themselves, and most of the time they're just completely automated. Some of the directories you will find will remove feeds that are not topic related. That's how you lose your feeds and how they're audited from the directories, out of the directories. Also, Deb is saying, how many non-spun pieces of content are required each week per blog? Well, Deb, you're asking actually a question that's not related to the feeds. I just want to make sure that you know that.
I recommend putting in 2 blog posts a week. I don't care how small your blog is. A minimum of 2. There's no maximum.
Yeah, and again, I'm just concerned about the context of her question.
Yeah.
She comes in with...
But I have to say, I'm sorry, but this, setting up a OneFeed and then not running any content through your blog will not do you any good.
Right. I want to address, just to make sure, Deb, that you heard what Sue's saying, that obviously you need to do your own content. We're going to get into that more because this is called frequency of publishing. But Deb, my concern is you brought up the exact verbiage, spun pieces of content, right after we've been talking about spun feeds, and they're not even in the same universe. So I want to make sure that you're not confused about when we're talking about spinning feeds, it's not related in any way to the content in your WYSIWYG editor on your blog. And it's not related in any way. We're talking about Samson automatically spinning the feed for you so that each time it produces a feed output that you get different ways of talking about the links as they're published. This is kind of advanced, Deb, so if you need me to walk you through it, we can just hop on the phone at some point, because we have coaching stuff going on. I picked up on the fact that you were probably using spun in a way that's not related to what we're showing you now. And so hopefully everybody else, though, Sue came in with a great point, that frequency of publish is what makes all this thing work. And she's saying a minimum of 2 articles per week so that you have stuff updating. Otherwise, you're really not taking advantage of the active connections of all the places that you're published to.
Yep.
Okay. Sue, Stephen asks, could you go over grabbing the feed from Samson one more time, please?
Absolutely. So let me come back to Samson for a second. Here underneath Manage Campaigns, once you've actually added your campaign in the Add Campaign section, you come here to Manage Campaigns, and you're going to see all of the campaigns that you've plugged in here. And you're going to grab that feed right from here. If you click on this, it'll open it in a new window, and that'll be your feed, and you just pick it up out of the URL and then drop it back in your spreadsheet.
Excellent. And also, this is a great question by Kevin. I'm going to let you answer it. And how does a feed deal with dynamic content?
With changing content.
I have my own answer to that. Kevin, it really depends on your blog output settings, and it depends on what you're using to generate the dynamic content. If you have, for example, WordPress is very specific and very different than, what was Northline Express on, Sue? Magenta. It depends on what technology is generating your feed. And for example, in a WordPress blog, dynamic content can mean many different things. It can mean you're updating, using automation like I am from some of my WR2 sites. It can mean you're using crazy plugins like, like Whirlwind or Tornado, whatever it is that replaces all of your content every day and updates it. So that the answer to your question is going to be dependent 100% upon what technology you're using to generate the dynamo of the content, and it's going to be related. It's going to be a connection between that technology and your WordPress output settings. Okay, so Kevin's also saying he's using pods in WordPress. Hey, Kevin, send me a link to that. I'll talk to you in private. I don't know until I see it. And really, you should just go in and check. What you do is you look at pods, and then you go to your settings, and then look at your feed, and check to see what the feeds are doing. So if you want to send me one of your feeds, I'll look at it for you.
Let me just let me get a little bit more granular based on that comment with what a feed is doing.
Okay.
When you create a post in your blog, it's going to put that post into your feed based on the publication date. Okay? And there's a difference between a publication date and an update date. And unless your actual publication date changes, it's not going to get included in your feed again a second time. What it's looking for, what it's going to do, is it will grab the description and however much of the content you told it to grab, and whatever the enclosures are, whatever media enclosures there are, blah, 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 and create your feed item out of that information. And unless you change the pub date, that will not refresh in your feed. Now, let's just talk really quickly about this other thing which I had intended on covering. Here in your WordPress blog, let's just talk about your blog settings for a minute. Under settings, you've got this thing called reading, and under reading is where you set the settings for your feed. And so in this particular instance, it's all under syndication, right? Your syndication feed shows the most recent 30 items is what Russ has got this set for. The default is going to be 10. And for each article in your feed, show full text or the summary text. Now, Russ and I have had a couple of conversations on this over the course of the last couple of days. If you want to make sure that your enclosures are captured in your feed, there are different, as we just discussed, there's different plugins that do different things and different readers that do different things, and it's not a standard. But if you want to make absolutely positively certain that your media is included in your feed, then you want to set this to full text. And my gripe with setting it to full text is that if you set it to summary, then you're encouraging the person to come back to your blog. So if you're going to set this to full text, which after the couple of discussions with Russ, I actually agree with him completely, you should set it to full text. And you want to make sure that you have a strong call to action at the bottom with a link back to whatever it is that you're calling them to the action for, right? And if you do that, I mean, the more that I think about it, the more I'm looking at these guys on the black hat sites that want to pick up content, they're going to be actually looking for full content feeds because it helps them out infinitely more than the summary feeds do. And so you'll actually get a lot more exposure if you've got your full content, if you've got your feed set to full content, but you got to make sure that you got that call to action on there and that you got the link back to wherever it is you want them to buy or sign up or whatever it is that you want them to do. Okay. Any more questions?
No, there's something that Kevin's getting into which is too much for this, but we can address him offline.
All right. So, Russ, I'm going to have to pass this to you now so that you can show these guys RSS submit.
Oh, no.
So, yeah,
okay.
I'm sorry. So, we've
closing Netflix, closing
exactly.
games.
Stop all that stuff. We've got our 4 feeds here, and what we're going to do is we're going to go one by one through our 4 channels, actually, that we've created, our 4 feeds, and we're going to submit each of them to RSS submit. So,
how are you going to hand me the feeds through the...
I'm going to actually hand you the document, the spreadsheet document.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to pass it to everybody because I'm sure we've got 3 or 4 people in here, but a few more won't hurt.
Closing Swiss bank accounts. Hang on a second. All right.
That's okay. I'm looking for the chat anyway.
All right.
There we go. Oh, I can send this to just the organizers. No, I'll send it to everybody.
Okay. Oh, is this an open spreadsheet for now before we lock it down?
Yeah. Oh, it's only open if you have the link, so only members are going to have the link.
Kevin asks if there is a minimum for. There's a maximum, Kevin, of 100, and there is no minimum. I think the minimum might be 1. I don't know, actually. Stop asking me hard questions.
I would set it for at least 10.
Yeah, don't set it for 1. Like, don't try to figure out the minimum.
No, at least 10. And
unless you're doing something weird with your news stuff you were talking about. So everyone, Kevin was asking, is there a minimum of the posts on the settings in the blog? I just really don't think you want to do less than 10. For me, I'm finding there's certain things that I'm doing where I want, especially with WR2 or automated blogs, which are working like gangbusters when it comes to videos. I like giant feeds. There are some diminishing returns if you have human beings clicking on feeds that have 100 URLs, as it's hard to load in their browser. So just 50 I found is a nice average. Still a little heavy for some RAM, but
yeah. Think about if you've got those video enclosures and they actually load up in somebody's feed reader.
100 feeds is kind of like crash your browser.
100. Yeah. I wouldn't. Yeah. I mean, I've found that 10 videos loading up on an HTML page really taxes a lot of people's browsers.
Absolutely.
So if you've got enclosures in there, I'd probably stick it to 10. And if you don't have enclosures, then
yeah. And I got to tell you guys, we weren't going to cover this much today, but I do 2 different things for automated blogs, like Eve, like on the PinVid stuff or anything else. I do, if I'm only going for bots, I'll take just the raw feed that's not meant for humans and thread it through some of those areas. But for when people hit the site and they want to subscribe to a reader, I just do like 10 if it's a video site. So it really depends. I mean, Sue and I haven't talked much about this. Probably you would set it to 10 or 50 like no matter what, even when you're going to the directories, or what would you do? We never talked about that.
No, we haven't ever really talked about it. I haven't thought about it too hard.
Well, if the software that I'm about to show everyone, I don't mind if it's 100 wide because the whole thing is getting pinged. And if I'm going to something like, actually, we need to talk about that.
Yeah, you know what? We'll talk. We will. Yeah, we'll answer this more next week.
Yeah, actually, I'm a little nervous because we never talked about that. So hold off on that, Kevin, and stop asking difficult questions until later. All right.
All right. I'm going to hand you the whiteboard. You ready? You got everything closed?
Yeah, I'm ready. I got all the stuff closed. Okay.
All right.
Oh, that's scary. All my monitors just went blank.
They will for a second, and then it should come back up.
Okay. Okay, monitor 2 out of 4. Okay.
4?
Hope I don't explode. Yeah, got a new one.
Excellent.
Okay. I'm lying. I just wanted to look really sophisticated. All right. So let's go ahead and
bring up RSS.
Can everybody?
Yeah, I can see.
Can everybody see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. There's RSS submit, and so this is a software that requires a fee, and there are other ways you can do it, which we go over.
Yeah, I'm investigating another piece of software that's very similar to RSS Submit, and I'll have a review for you guys next week. So you might not want to bite the bullet on purchasing this software just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Okay, so this is the cool thing. You can get a cracked version of RSS Submit out there, and I recommend against it because the cracked version does not allow you to check for updates.
Yeah.
And
also, by law, we can't recommend any cracked software.
Well, I know, but I just want to say, there is sometimes that cracked software isn't such a bad thing, but in this particular instance, cracked software is a really bad thing because the places where this is submitting to changes all the time. The URLs change, the whole thing just changes, and so it's something that's really intense on the updates. So you want to actually, whichever software out of the 2 that I'm going to give you during the course of this course, whichever one you go with, bite the bullet and buy it.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, definitely. And for the record, under no circumstances does ThemeZoom or Network Empire recommend using any form of cracked software. It is illegal and it is theft. So, okay. So here's the RSS submit. And you want me to take what feed, Sue, are we working on?
In column G, you can grab any of those. I think we can just give them an example of one of them.
Which one shall I take? Can you just
take the top one.
The top one? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to copy.
Yeah. I think if you double-click on it.
I should be able to copy.
Yeah.
And all you have to do, here's the RSS submit software. It's not much to look at. but it's really pretty simple. You just enter the URL of that feed, and this one's going to be the raw feed, and you can also put in the follow Sue's precise process map. You can put in FeedBurner, or I put in FeedBlitz when I'm using my G++ software. So at this point, you just click the Add button. You can see I have one here from last time. Okay, this is actually a feed from the Google Plus software. That is the only software on the market that is stable that allows you to turn Google Plus into an RSS feed. You click that, and you can see it's been added. Now you can have any number of the RSS feeds here, and when you click Submit All, it's going to run all of them. It just takes a lot longer. Do you want me to remove this one, Sue, for now?
No, you don't have to. Over on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, if you highlight the that feed that you just put in,
that one,
you can also hit Submit there, and that will submit just the one that's highlighted, as opposed to the Submit All in the bottom left-hand corner. That's going to run them all.
Right. It can get pretty
time-consuming when you've got 20 or 30 of them up there.
Yeah, when I have like 20 of the VidPin or PinVid sites up, then it's going to take a long time. The thing can be running for quite a while.
Yeah.
Okay, but this time we'll just go ahead and click. Should I just run it or submit?
Yeah, submit. Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
And we'll show you guys what it does.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's just going to take a couple of seconds. It runs through 50 or 60 different. Actually, don't remember how many. I've got it.
60.
Okay. Runs through 60 different places and submits them to a bunch of different search engines and blog directories and RSS directories. There's a difference between RSS directories and blog directories. Blog directories want RSS feeds from just blogs, and RSS directories will take any RSS feed.
Right,
so,
and there is a plugin that we've been playing with. I think Sue has voted off the island. I'm not sure. Sue, I'll let you speak.
I've tried 3 different plugins actually for RSS Submit, and the basic vanilla is the best.
It is, yeah.
It's
part of the reason.
ROI. You plug it and you play it, and it's just instantaneous, and you don't have to think about it. Everything else is pretty hairy when it comes to. RSS Submit does its best to try to help you with the submission process to the manual submission places, but it's just not helpful enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, so this is not the solution I would use to submit to the top 55. The top 55 is, they essentially copied Robin Good, real-time news curator Robin Good's suggested RSS directories, and they want a link back. It's actually a reciprocal link system, and it's just more trouble than it's worth for a lot less return on investment. It was probably more from the early 2000s, I think, where that was useful. But this is definitely not the way to go. We had some of our outsourcers run it, and it's not really worth the a lot of them don't even tell you whether or not you've been submitted. Others, you go on a submission list, and you might hear back or you might not, and it's a lot of pain for not a real guaranteed high ROI. And now there are 2 services in this automatic set and forget submitting that do come back to your inbox. For me, it's russell@themezoom.com. All you have to do is go there and click, and they just want to make sure they're just doing a double confirm.
Yeah.
And all you do is you go to the inbox and you click it, and then they go ahead and submit you to that directory under that topic.
Yeah.
So this is about as easy as it gets, and it really does have an effect, especially when you start taking you can do all kinds of things with this, which Sue, I'll let you, like Samson, you can do any kinds of other stuff.
Well, you're gonna take the 4 feeds that we've created here, and you're gonna run all 4 of them through RSS Submit. Now, you can do this really easily. You can paste it in at the top, hit Add, paste the next one in at the top, hit Add, paste the next one at the top, and hit Add through all 4 of them, and then hit the Submit All, and just walk away from your computer for 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, or you can put it on your server, like for outsourcing, we don't obviously do it on your home computer. If you got a larger firm, you can run it. So you guys know how.
Yeah, and it's not that you can't use your computer while it's running. It's just
it's low. It actually uses very little processing power.
It's very low bandwidth. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
You've asked about RSS Submit. RSS Submit runs right around $100. $97 or something like that.
Yeah, and guys, don't buy it's logging into Yahoo search. Here you go. Here's the RSS feed complete.
It's done.
And then, so what you do is you get a list of,
where it's gone. Looks like more than 60, but yeah. So you can get a list there, and then you can run through. What it's done is it's brought up a window at the bottom of all of the places that it's submitted to, and as you go through the next, it's just showing you that your feeds were submitted, the it takes like a little screenshot of each of the submitted, each of the final things. Every twice in a while there's a couple of them that don't get submitted, and that's just the way it goes with automated stuff. But I've been really happy with it. Have I thought about using Scrapebox? I haven't yet. Let me put that on my list of things to try over the course of this next week. I hate to say it, I bought Scrapebox over a year ago, and I've never actually done too much with it. I've
used it a bit, and also you bought, and yeah, we could, to tell you the truth, who asked that question? Kevin probably, right?
No, that was Eve.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Eve, like, you can design your own version of this. Like, if you don't want to pay for the software, you could design it. It's more trouble than it's worth, really, because there are a couple of nuances, and then you got to deal with the bot and the updates and everything like that. This company is just making sure that, they're pretty good at up-to-date. They've been updating this like every 3 months. So
I think Scrapebox has a plugin that
well, there you go.
That'll do some kind of. I'll check into it.
We don't really care how you. Yeah, we don't really care how you get it to the directories. This is just one way you can do it.
Right.
We're testing other things. We just want to make sure that, hey, be creative. If you want to design your own app, let us know. Maybe we'll work with you. It's fine. So,
exactly.
Click OK. All right. RSS feed submissions are complete. Would you like to submit your feed to the manual directories? And we've tested that, so you guys don't have to. The answer is no.
No.
And don't spend the $80 on this plugin. It rocks. Forget about it. Okay. So we tested it. We just saved you $80. So you can mail us at PayPal. Okay. So,
all right.
No, there you go. Okay. You want to take back the control there, Sue?
I will grab it back.
Okay.
Okay. You can see my screen again?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So that takes us down through all of these, down from 9 through 12. And so the next thing we want to do is to ping all 4 of these. So there's all kinds of pinging facilities out there, and next week I will get into some really advanced ones. But this week I'm going to show you one that's just pretty easy to use. It's called FeedShark. It's free and it's easy. So I'm going to pick up my my RSS feed again. Actually, let me just look at this for a second. Ping your blog, feed, or podcast.
No proxy issues, Kevin. And the cost is around $80. We have a link in the members area.
What I really want, I want to grab my Samson feed. Just out of morbid curiosity.
You guys might need proxies, Kevin, however, for the G++ application we built. If you want G+'s RSS feed that we create for you to be updated every hour, then you'll need to have a proxy service. Now, if you have your own, that's great. Bring your own secure proxies. We also offer a service that's incredibly inexpensive, and we'll have that updated in the members area as well.
Cross-pollinating feeds is next week, Brian. So a blog title. So since all of these are variations on a theme, I would probably change my blog title up just a little bit every time. So
no, Brian, not hide my ass for proxies. Don't use it.
You should tell them why.
Okay. Hide My Ass is owned by a service. Well, anyway, the long and short of it is, what Hide My Ass is really good for is the application that you download so that from your desktop, from your computer, it appears that your surfing is coming from a different location. And if you want to test the secure, they do provide a secure proxy service, but we keep getting pinged on the help desk of people confusing a proxy surfing technology with proxies that you can use with other applications. Now, Brian, if you're not confused about that, then I'm cool with using that as long as you test the proxies. Well, what I'm saying is that Hide My Ass is a service that's designed to cloak where you're coming from when you're surfing through browsers. And people try to take those. All I'm saying is that if you're using that service, don't think that the secure proxies they give you with the desktop app is something that you can use in third-party applications as a secure proxy.
It's not designed for that.
And people keep doing that, and then we get pinged on the help desk. And then I went to hidemyass.com and the service to try to buy a secured proxies that I could use within third-party locations. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So why bring up, you need to use your own proxy, so why use Hide My Ass? It's not relevant to the conversation. Yeah. We recommend mysecureproxies.net. We'll give you a link to it. Okay.
All right. So, yeah, we'll actually stick that up in the G++ area. So what I'm trying here, what I'm interested in is blog URL. I'm wondering if I have to put my URL there. And I haven't. I have to admit, I gave this to my outsourcer, and he played with it, and I haven't. So I'm going to try to just stick this in the RSS URL rather than in the blog URL. And I'm supposing that if I do that, then it's not going to want to, then I'm not going to be able to put it into this thing that accepts blogs. So it might well be, yeah, the more I read this, the more I know what I got to do. I'm going to want to stick this in as a blog URL, even so it's not actually the blog feed. It's still a feed for a blog. And then I can put it in all of these things that accept blogs, as well as all of the things that accept RSS. And that's what I was talking about a few minutes ago. There are some of these services that are specifically geared toward blogs. It's interesting. And then there's some services that are specifically geared toward feeds. And ideally, you want to be able to do both. So then you stick in your number, and you say, ping my blog, and Bob should be your uncle. And if you enable turbo mode, then they want a little bit of money from you. All right. So that's all there is to that. Add the following code to your blog to allow Farksheet to track your, yeah, I don't want them to track my submissions, so that's just fine. Okay, that's all you do. And you would do that for each of your 4 URLs that you've got over here. And I believe that's it. Feed shark, feed shark, feed shark, feed shark. Yeah, that's it. You're done. So that's the basic feed, OneFeed system. And we didn't get too complicated today, but as I said, next week we're going to get a whole lot more complicated. And see if you guys got any questions on our way out the door today. And otherwise we'll be back for probably a little bit longer session next week because we get into some really fun stuff with the feed mixing.
Okay, I'm going to allow about 20 seconds, 30 seconds for you guys to start providing questions so that we can, I want to make sure that everybody understands the value of what it is that happened. It's a complicated thing because we showed you pinging, we showed you submitting, we showed you automation from the actual blog plugin, and in the value, if you don't understand the technical infrastructure, is not going to be clear. It generates traffic for you, both human and bot. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes, Brian, the mind map is
this one?
That is actually inside the paid area.
It's right here.
It's already inside the area, Brian, so go ahead and log in to the members area and click on it, and you can download it.
Now
the process map is there.
What we focused on today was the blog feed. There are some really subtle differences between the blog feed, the YouTube feed, and the G+ feed. Most of them have to do with stuff that we're going to get into next week. The basic feed, you can pretty much apply to any RSS feed. So you can grab, one thing that we could do is, let me just show you how to grab your feed out of
Deb, we have the
YouTube.
The pricing. If you wanted to do everything that Sue is recommending, with the current sale on Samsung, I think you're going to be out what was it, Sue, $130? We had the tab.
Around $120, $130.
If you decided to use like what she showed you today, Shark Ping, which I've never used before, so I can't vouch for it. But if you go for Pingler or something like that,
that's only a couple bucks more.
Yeah, but the free stuff she showed you works. It pings. I like Pingler because you can automate Samsung with it and automate any other apps you might use. Additionally, Pingler has a unique feature that you can set delayed repings every 7 days if you want it.
Let me just cover this and then we can do the questions because I see they're starting to roll in.
Okay.
So,
no
So there's a couple of different ways. If you go Googling how to get your YouTube feed, you will find the wrong way to get your feed. And so I will make sure that this gets into the members area so that you can find it. All you have to do, all you're going to need to do is just substitute where it says author equals theme zoom. You're just going to substitute your name. So for example, if I went to YouTube and just picked somebody, for some reason this Russell character keeps coming up. Let me just go here.
I'm everywhere.
Indeed. Ow. I
can tell what you've been working on.
Yeah. If I go to, how do I get there? I want to get up. This is what I want. So this gives me his user, and you grab that part of that user, and that's what you want to drop into this URL over here. So instead of theme zoom, we're going to drop in his name, and then when I hit the return, I should come up with his feed. Yep, looks like his feed.
Yep.
So I
this like. Go ahead, Sue. Sorry.
I'll make sure we drop this into the to the members area, and I'll show you which part you got to replace.
Guys, this is gold.
Yeah.
And what we're going to be showing you next week is when you combine it, and this what Brian was wanting was cross-pollination.
Right.
When you use that properly, it's just really gold.
Yeah.
So, I'd also like to answer, Kevin, that's a great question. Do we need a specific feed burner account for the blog or one link to Gmail account? And the answer to that is yes. And I personally, the more that I work with building dozens, moving into hundreds now of automated WR2 blogs based on Sue's model and some of the stuff I brought to you, the more that I'm having my outsource do a one-to-one relationship. In other words, one persona, Gmail account, FeedBurner account associated with one blog. And when you see the whole bit, some of our more advanced layouts, you'll understand why that's the case. It's just, that's my personal opinion. Sue may do it differently.
No, I do it absolutely the same way. And let me just speak for a moment from the online marketing consultant perspective. I don't intend to keep my clients forever.
Right, precisely.
And so I want to create a package where I can just hand them their entire thing like a suitcase, right? I create a PDF that's got all of their users and their passwords and links and the whole 9 yards. And so because of that, you want them to have a Gmail account, you want them to have the associated FeedBurner account, you want them to have the associated G Plus account, like that whole social media package just becomes them, and it's branded for them, right? Like it's them all the way through. So
And there's multiple reasons on so many levels why you have to have that, even aside from the fact that the Google Plus, and Eve, this speaks to some of the things that you're looking at with your clients within those models. Google Plus is a movement in Google's desire to verify every social media account, and Google Plus needs to be tied directly to your YouTube for optimal benefits, and Google Plus needs to be tied to your Gmail account for optimal benefits for so many reasons. And then additionally, Google Plus is tied to a dashboard, which holds that account accountable for all of this type of thing. Now, we have all of our outsourcing staff create their personas so that if our outsourcing staff ever leaves, we get those accounts left with us.
Yeah, the persona stays with us.
That's how important those things are in binding and creating a G Plus feed. All that stuff.
And as a consultant, you can use your telephone number to verify their Google account, and it doesn't tie that phone number to that Google account, just so you know.
Correct. And additionally, there's all kinds of things you can do to safeguard this, which we'll get into another time. Will, you are asking, we'll be covering social syndication. Will, do you have it seems like you have a strong interest in social syndication. You bet. We're going to be covering more of that. We can cover a little bit more today. In fact, I would prefer that.
Okay.
But I think that next week we're also, I don't want to wait everything for next week.
Well, it's not everything, but I mean, there's several things that we're going to do. We're going to cover Facebook, we're going to cover Twitter, from Twitter to Twyla, we're going to cover LinkedIn and YouTube. And so we're going to
Okay.
I mean, the YouTube feed feeding through all of those things that I just mentioned, the Facebook,
Yeah.
the Twitter, to Twyla, and the LinkedIn.
Precisely.
So,
Shelton, to answer your question, if we use Done For You, no. If you just click the buy button on doneforyou.onefeedtoruletemall.com, so again, the subdomain is doneforyou.onefeedtoruletemall.com, there's no point in buying all these services unless you're going to use them. I'm sorry, the software and the rest. We use, essentially, we perform a master. The spreadsheet's quite a bit bigger than the one that you're seeing, but when you purchase the Done For You services, it's all done for you. So you don't, if you only want to do that, then you don't need to purchase the software and stuff.
Right. It's just a little bit. So what we've done today is basically the basic service. That was why I wanted to break it into two really distinct parts, so that you could see what was for $47, and the next week you'll see what's for $97. The $97 package includes everything we did today plus heaps more. And it doesn't include the social media stuff because that gets into needing your account information, and we didn't want to go there. We don't feel comfortable going there, at least not yet. So,
I would also add, Kevin, to answer your question, would you ever use a OneFeed to update a third-party social site? Absolutely. I have, I'd say, at least a dozen OneFeeds threading through certain Facebook accounts. But this is where we got to be really, really careful what we tell you. You can't miss. This is where Sue's model of the one web ring to rule them all starts to explode in your brain, and you go, "Oh, I understand why she built that universe." Literally, I would never run a full-scale OneFeed through a WR1 Facebook fan page, simply without really carefully auditing what goes into that OneFeed, and Sue will talk about that next week.
I talk about it a lot next week.
Okay. But I do have crazy experiments going on where, as you guys know, I showed you in the free introductory webinar, I have automated Facebook fan page that my PinVid sites are connected to, and I do have OneFeeds running into those fan pages with great results as long as they have Open Graph tied to them. So the only requirement is that there's an image hanging off of those feeds. I don't like non-image or non-video links syndicating inside Facebook because they just don't get the same response. So we'll get into that more on some other stuff that we do. It's really great stuff. Hey, Stephen, I didn't mean to leave you out. I just wanted to address this carefully. Will you be showing us any examples next week on how a feed can actually generate content on a site? That's a great question. Sue and I have intentionally kept that out of the scope of this conversation because that's really site development. If anything, it has to do with content curation, RSS curation, and the rest. I don't think you're going to be covering any of that, Sue, are you?
No.
It's really not part.
Hey, so there's so many different ways of doing it. Like that could be a whole 2-3 hour lecture in and of itself.
It kind of has to be another course, just like the Twitter Army is another course.
Yeah, if you're looking for like a third-party thing, you can use Widgetbox. I would go to WordPress plugins and just take a quick look at the plugins that use RSS feeds. Like that'll get you started, and then it goes off into more black hat kind of areas that get really intense, which I'm not going to mention.
Yeah, Stephen, it's a complicated question. And dynamic content, like for example, Kevin just sent me a link a few minutes ago that he's doing some pretty heavy stuff with dynamic content.
Right.
It's really interesting because I do have quite a bit of experience with syndicating content directly to your blog, and one of the reasons that Sue is bringing up the controversy between having your blog setting enclosure, your RSS output either be full or only a text summary, is that technically, you can take somebody's RSS feed who's actually allowing the entire content of their blog, to be in the RSS feed. If you take that RSS feed, you can just republish that to your own blog, and you're, literally stealing all the content and so on and so forth. And if you're a better SEO,
you're actually not stealing. If they've stuck it in their feed, they have given you the rights to republish that.
Okay, let me rephrase myself. If somebody publishes the entire text summary, the entire page, then you have the ability to borrow that content. And technical or non-technical, in the early years when we were actually doing that at different companies that I worked with, there was a huge controversy at the point over whether or not you should be taking somebody's entire content. In fact, there was times where there's disclaimers, so on and so forth. So yes, I agree with what you're saying, Sue. My point is more of a technical one, that obviously if somebody's giving you the entire text in an RSS feed, it's very, very easy for you to just publish that to a platform. Okay, if they're not doing that, then you have to do a second call, which follows that link and then pulls the content, which is more of the illegal maneuver.
Yeah.
It's fairly taboo. My point here is just for people not experienced with feeds, I want you to understand that in your WordPress thing that Sue showed you on your settings, if you allow full content through your feed, it's going to be easy for people like me to pull that feed in and just publish entire blogs and SEO it better and have all of that content publishing and remixing it with other things. We have clients that do this. Sue has consulted on some what we call RSS curation sites, and you can apply the same methods of silo that we've shown you through the years, and if you're borrowing feeds that have given you access to the entire content and you silo better than they do, you can easily start ranking for a lot of those terms. So to answer your question, we're really not getting into what I call RSS blog curation.
No.
Or RSS syndication.
The only reason I brought it up at all was just to give you guys a reason for why you're doing all of this with your feeds. Because if you don't understand that people are out there doing that with feeds, then it just seems like you're throwing your feed out into the ethers, and so what?
Okay, excellent. And Stephen has a great follow-up question for you, Sue.
Okay.
So we are just putting out the RSS feeds for other people to create website sections, where are all these feeds ending up? Search engine listings? Okay, that's great. I mean, he's getting into like why are we sticking all these feeds everywhere else? You want to address that?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So if they put your stuff on their site, then that gives you backlinks. And if they've got sites that are popular, that's going to generate traffic for you. And if it goes on sites that have more authority than your site, they could outrank you for your own content. But the whole idea behind all of the stuff that we show you is how to get enough authority that won't happen. But, that's not necessarily a bad thing, somebody else outranking you for your own content, because that's just going to lead people back to you. So,
oh, yeah. In fact, we have some very funny stories. Our videos are stolen all the time.
All the time.
And then they're in fact, whole content pieces, and then they're re-syndicated on these blog platforms. And when I first started launching the content curation videos and stuff, it was really funny because I would type in a keyword and I'd be like number 2 or 3 for something. And it's like, wow, who's hitting number 1 for this word? And then I go up there and it was a video. That's how I actually got into video pinning and everything else and the complex stuff I'm making up now, is it was a full platform with our video embedded directly into it with a snippet of our content, just republished to this place. I'm sure hopefully you guys have found your own stuff or other people's stuff on.
And if you haven't, you will shortly.
Well, right, and this is why it's important, and we've talked to our clients about this, for you to have your watermarks and your calls to action right in your video.
Yeah, absolutely.
So many videos are getting stolen, and this is all considerations that we're not asking you to just do this stuff blindly. You got to think about it from the perspective of somebody who's stealing your feed, kind of like the Hoffman book, Steal This Book. Right. It really is about steal this feed, but before you encourage people to steal it, think about how it's going to benefit you and make sure you have all your I's dotted and T's crossed.
Make sure you got that call to action. Make sure you got that breadcrumb back to your website so that everybody comes home.
Guys, there's nothing like going to your weblog files and seeing that a campaign from Samson is giving you traffic from out of nowhere, and watching the /feed from Facebook hitting your feeds that are all automated, watching social media platforms from Quora and G+ driving traffic back to your site, all of it being automated. This stuff works. And again, Brian, I had a conversation with you a few months back that's like, okay, it really looks horrible when your WR1 platforms and social media looks too automated and the rest. I absolutely agree with that. Like, you want to make it pretty nice. You don't want to fully automate all your WR1s. You want to have your social media person do soft touch. And
absolutely.
We don't really care. We don't care about it as much as most people because it's just not our focus. Like, Facebook is not where we get most of our customers. But generally speaking, you want soft touch images, for your WR1s and brand attention. For your WR2 platform, your WRS2 platforms, it can be more automated with pretty pictures and images, especially if you're in a neurotic niche where the videos and the pictures are kind of addictive, and where you have speakers. In fact, so far it's working in any market. So you just got to know when to hold them and when to fold them when it comes to this kind of stuff. And we'll talk more about that in upcoming stuff and in the course.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else, guys? I think we're pretty good, Sue.
Okay, then let's wrap it up for this week, and I will see you guys back here, same bat time, same bat channel, next Tuesday. You have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much turkey.
Thanks, Sue, and I'll see you for Thanksgiving in Phoenix.
Awesome.
All right, talk to you later. Bye.
Ciao.